Welcome back to the 30 days of JavaScript challenge. And today is day 7th of this 30 days of JavaScript challenge. And today we are going to cover the problem named as array reduce transformation. So it's pretty simple problem. Let's go through that quickly. So problem ID is 2626 and the problem name is array reduce transformation. And let's look into the problem statement. Given an array nums, a reducer function fn. So up to now we understand that okay, we have an integer array named as num, and as well we have something called as a function fn, and they're calling it as some reducer function. Also, and an initial value in it. So okay, so now we have num, a reducer function fn, and an initial value in it. And they're asking us to return the final result obtained by executing the function fn on each element of the array sequentially. Okay, so basically we have to perform this function fn over each element of the array, passing in the return value from the calculation on the preceding element. So whatever the output we were getting from the previous element, we have to pass that to the function as a new element. Okay, so this result is achieved through the various operations. So let's say the first one is val, fn, init, and nums of 0. So we are passing the initial value and nums of 0, which is the first element of our array, right? And then we are passing val is equals to fn nums of 1. Okay, the second element. Similarly, val and third, fourth, and so on. Until every element in the array has been processed, the ultimate value of val is then returned. So here we are starting with init, which is given to us, and then we started to pass the val, which is the result of the previous operation. And at the end, we have to return the ultimate value of val. Okay, pretty cool. Let's see. So here they are saying 1, 2, 3, 4 as the element, and function sum, and ACCUM. Basically, this is accumulator, and CURR, this is current. And they're saying return accumulator versus plus current. And in the second case, they're doing accumulator plus current into current, something like that. So this function, so just by looking to these two examples, we know this function is not going to be constant. This is not something doing something as constant. Okay, but this function is something which is passed to this main reduce function as a parameter, right? Fn. So it could be anything, any operation, it could be any sort of thing. And also they have been mentioned that please solve it without using the built-in array.reduce method. So it's sort of you are going to create your own array.reduce. Not exactly. Okay, so let's look into the problem. So once again, I'll go through the problem very quickly. The problem asks you to recreate the JavaScript behavior of reduced function without using the built-in one. Okay, we are given three things: num, an array of numbers, fn, a reducer function, and then init, the initial value of accumulator. Now, what is our task? So your task is to start the value val is equals to init. So the initial value will be init, whatever is given. Then go through every element of the array one by one. At each step, update val using the reducer function and pass it to the next one. That's all, right? And we have already this particular thing. Now, let's go into the solution for this particular problem. So I already have the solution over here, but let's look into the line by line understanding for this. So they have already given some part in the boilerplate code. So var reduce function, and it's taking nums for fn and init. Okay, so the first line, for those who are completely new to JavaScript, this define function name as reduce that receive nums, fn, and init. Okay, so this is what it's going to receive, which is already in the boilerplate code. We don't have to write. Okay, now what we are going to do is we have to create a val variable. Why? Because the first thing that we have to do here is to create a variable called as val. Why? The question why is can be simply answered because we have to start from the initial value, pass it to our val variable, and then continue with the same variable. So again, you pass this val to the function, whatever you get the output, again pass. So looping the same. But where do we have to start with? We have to start it with init. And that is why we first put this val variable equals to init. Okay. Then I have to go with the for loop. But why do I need it? Right. So let's look into line 2 very clearly. We create a variable val to store our accumulator, okay, which is nothing but init. So we initialize it with init, just like how real reduce start with initial value. So even if you know about reduce function, it start with some initial values, right? So that's what we are going. So before loop, we will simply assign this variable the value of init. Next up is line 3. So we are simply going to create a function, and what we are doing is we will be starting from 0 and we will go up to nums of length. So nums is the array that is given to us, and then I plus plus. Pretty simple. A simple loop that goes through every element of the array. I is equals to 0 is the first element, and we have to run until I is equals to nums of length minus 1. So that's why there is no equals to. If nums is empty, the loops never run. So that's the good thing. Now, what do you have to do? So if you read the problem statement clearly, you don't exactly have to do anything, just to create a for loop and assign your value to it. Okay, how? So you're inside of a you're inside of a for loop, and then you already have this val variable. You just assign it to the function and pass your values. So let me first write down the for loop. So for let I is equals to 0, I will go up to nums dot length, and then I plus plus, one increment. And then simply I will do val is equals to, and then I will simply assign this entire thing to the function which is passed to it. But the question is, what exactly do we have to pass? So the first go we have to pass init, then nums of 0, and so on. So, and that is why we already have our val set to init. So the first go also we don't have to set init, because this init value we have, if we set here, then I cannot change it, right? But the val, it will keep on changing. That's why val is here as well, and that is why I initialized val to init. So the value of val is equals to init. So if in the first go I will pass init, init is a constant, right? So the for every time this for loop will run, init won't be changed, init won't get changed. So that's why I need to put it into a variable val. And since I need to change val everything, so there is val. So I will simply pass val over here, and then we have to pass my nums of I. Okay, this is pretty simple, right? So now what will happen for this? This is the heart of the solution. Okay, each iteration take the current accumulator. So what is the current accumulator we have? Well, take the current array element nums of I, obviously, pass them to the reducer function fn val comma nums of I, and then update val with the returned result. Simply update val so that when we are passing val to the next time, inside the fn function we get the updated value, and that's why we never kept the init over there in the first go. I hope you understand. Okay, for example, if fn is equals to sum and current value is equals to 3, nums of I is 4, then val of function 3 comma 4 will be 7. Like it's we are considering the addition part, and then we just have to close the loop and we have to return the val, and that's it. When I will close the loop and return the val, after we have processed all the elements, we return the final accumulated value, right? If the array was empty, val is still set to init, so there is no change at all. And since this function is different, sometimes they are adding, sometimes they are adding and multiplying, sometimes they are doing some other shit, so we don't give a fuck, right? So I just simply close the loop over here, and at the end I will simply return my final val. Okay, so let's run this program, and there we go. Okay, don't get failed. I hope so, this won't. So yeah, all the test cases are passed, XYZ. You can look into the solution and you'll find out it's very simple. Okay, so for the final understanding, see, you built your own version of array.prototype.reduce, which is a built-in function inside JavaScript. How did we do that? How do we do that? By initializing accumulator, looping over elements, and updating the accumulator using function, returning the final value. Now, one quick minute, and I will give you the summary of this. So what we're trying to do here is, we are given three things: a nums array, init, which is some set of integer, and then we have a function, and they're calling it as a reducer function. So what we have to do is, we have to return the final value, where if on all the elements this particular function has been performed. So if I have to pass all the elements inside this fn function and the init value, then what will be the result, the cumulative results we need. So, and that is why we first created a val function, variable, which is equals to init, and then we loop over the entire array. And what we did is we simply passed our val and nums of I. So initially for the first row, it will be nothing but init. So whatever value of init was passed to this function, it will be assigned to val. Okay. So we simply have to pass two things, first the init and then the array of elements. Okay. Like array elements, like nums of 0, nums of 1. But the catch is for the first time it will be init, right? But the second time the init will change to the final value because every time we need the updated. So val is equals to fn of val comma nums of I, right? And that is why, so first initialize this particular val to init, and then every time it will get changed. Every time it will get changed. Why? Because val is equals to val comma nums of I. So here val is going to get changed every time. And the same val we are passing in the next iteration. So that's why it's going on. I hope I didn't made it pretty complex. I just don't want to make it complex or overly exhausting. But yeah, this is how it goes. So simple answer is create a val variable, put it to init, create a for loop, assign this val, pass the val in nums of I, return the val, you will get the final answer, right? But yeah, if you are starting from scratch, from basic, this is what you all need to know. Yeah, thanks.